Now our last speaker, I would like to introduce our last speaker, Scott. So Scott is going to show us visualize the editing environment that can help you to create a chatbot, and you can be the teacher and the students they can use, or you can be the employer and your employee and the staffs they can use this chatbot to talk to the chatbot, so they can practice how to talk to their customer, or how they speak in English or French properly, and so on. So without further ado, Scott, can you maybe, I'm wondering if you can show your face right now, and you can start your presentation.
I don't actually have a webcam at the moment.
Okay, all right,
Sorry.
then that is good, no problem. Then Scott, you can start at any time you want.
Sure. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So as Professor Chang discussed, my project was a block-based visual editing environment for chatbots. My name is Scott. I'm an undergraduate student at Athabasca University, and Professor Chang is my mentor for this project. So the goals of this were to create a platform for chatbots to be created, viewed, tested, and have user interactions logged for review. And so the benefit here is that you remove the burdens for deploying, sharing, and maintaining a chatbot. JavaScript is very easy to implement, but you do need to have your own web server. You need to have your own web space. There's a lot that is involved in simply just hosting a website of any kind. And in addition, you then have to understand JavaScript files, pointing the bot to the correct files, and handling all those things. And by creating a centralized location for that, we remove those burdens and also give a centralized location for students to interact with chatbots and for teachers to review the logs at the same location that the students are interacting with the chatbots. And so you can learn if there's any issues with how people are talking with customers, clients, coworkers, or anything like that. And the second thing is to reduce, mostly with the visual aspect of it, is to reduce the burden of knowledge in creating a chatbot. AIML and JavaScript are just text-based things, but text-based things have a learning curve. They have their own lexicons, they have formatting requirements to make sure you don't run into errors, and they have other nuances. JavaScript, for example, everybody should be familiar, maybe not, but with the asterisk symbol in SQL queries and other computing applications, acting as a catch-all. The terminology is slipping my mind at the moment, but wildcard. It's a wildcard, so it matches anything. But JavaScript uses it in its common usage of being a wildcard, as well as matching to variables. And something like that can be confusing at first. And so by creating a visual representation of it, you can sort of clear that up for a lot of people. And this burden of knowledge is placed on every single person that would have to create a chatbot. So while they still have to learn the website, if you can reduce the amount of time people require to build a chatbot visually, then if you have 20 people, that savings is multiplied by 20. So there is a significant upside to doing it on an individual level and then applying that to a group of people. The stages that this project occurred in, originally, it was just text-based. It was just a text area that would take text, and it would take exact JavaScript only. And we use this basically just to get the project going, get the chatbots created and set up, and create the repository for these chatbots. But the meat of the research would be in stage 4 of the visual visual editing environment that I will showcase in a little bit here. So here we just have a simple sample conversation of two humans, potentially, just having a discussion, talking about what they did last night and whether or not they liked a movie or TV show or basketball game that they watched. And this is what it would look like in just text. And so this is what it would look like in RiveScript. And in RiveScript, the lines that begin with a plus indicate what the user says. And the lines that begin with a minus indicate what the chatbot would reply when the user response is matched. And so humans can react to the same question in a lot of different ways. And you can mimic that functionality with RiveScript, but it does get a little unwieldy, and you do have to know what everything means. You can add weights to different responses. You can add all kinds of things. And RiveScript is its own unique version of this. AIML is an XML-based chatbot creation language, and so you would have a version of that had XML, and it would be fairly verbose and lengthy, and RiveScript is still easy enough, but we can make strides while having a visual representation of it. And this is what the visual representation using my website looks like. It can look a little daunting, but if you're unfamiliar with RiveScript, perhaps it's easier to deduce than the sample conversation via RiveScript. And this is the exact same as the RiveScript, just in visual form. And then, so who would benefit from the creation of this website and this research? Well, as Professor Chang said, chatbot creators for training. Chat logs can be referenced, and you can guide people towards interacting in interpersonal communications based on how they react to the chatbots that you create. And you can view those, and you can have 10 people react the same and figure out what the best course of action would be. So you can even train the trainees, or train the trainers in what might be best to target when training people. In addition to training, it can also just be used for automation. I mean, chatbots in general now are sort of used to replace humans. You can't contact an ISP without first encountering a chatbot of some kind. And our platform can allow those chatbots to be created. They can be shared within our platform. They can be tested on our platform. And while the platform doesn't currently support exporting, as it's still just stored as a RiveScript file, there's nothing to stop anybody from exporting it down the line and using it outside of the platform. And now I will just show a brief demonstration of the site. I'll create a teacher account. We'll just Chang. Good, thank you. And so from here we see the majority of the site. So first I'll start here in the bottom left. So the idea behind using it as a teaching tool means teachers obviously have to create classes, and students have to join classes. So we'll go ahead and create one. Class code just represents what somebody would join using it as. So, if you type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you could join it. Teachers can join and create classes as they wish. Users or students can only join, and users can do neither. So just create simple here. And now I'm in a class comp 101. And so if you recall from the slideshow, we had a visual representation of the sample conversation, and this is what it looks like within the actual application. Everything is stored and retrieved, so you can interact with everything. Additionally, as far as training goes, one of the great features that we offer is the ability to copy existing chatbots in a training setting, this can be very powerful. If you have, let's say in a medical setting, you're a nurse trying to teach other nurses about handling various patients. If you want to have the same user responses, but you want the chatbots to respond in different ways, perhaps relating to cooperative and uncooperative patients, and preparing nurses or anybody that interacts with somebody to handle a aggressive situation. And you can copy it, and you can have the exact same questions with different people, quote unquote people, responding with different attitudes towards it. But if you are just inspired by something, you can also just copy it as well. And so one of the nuances with JavaScript and AIML that can be difficult to grasp is that if there isn't a match, you'll just get an ugly error. So here, if any of the specific questions weren't asked, then you would just get a message that says error, nothing matching, and it breaks the immersion. So we'll just go ahead and just add a quick fix to that, where, oh no. Zoom and pan functionality to get around larger examples. And it's as simple as that. Another nuance is that JavaScript goes top to bottom. So if, for example, you had a match anything user response like we do here, and you had it at the top, you would run into it all the time. And that's something that we can do better, but currently is lacking. And then, so the chatbot name, obviously, it's a little bit better. And then we'll share it with classmates, as we want our students to be able to view it. And we'll also create another one just to showcase additional functionality. And so then from here, we now have 2 chatbots that we're ready to deploy to our students so that they can test it out. So we will go ahead and create a student. We'll call it and so from here, the student is not part of any classes, but we can join the class that we created. And now Professor Chang and Steve are in the same class, and we can see the chatbots. Though I forgot to change the share setting on one of them. And we see both chatbots now. And then talking to a chatbot is the whole goal. So we'll go ahead and we'll just we'll talk to both chatbots currently. Yeah, so we'll talk to both chatbots, and we know both of them have a response, or should have a response, for hello. And you can see that they type dynamically, they respond dynamically. So, there's an element of randomness to the response times to make it look and feel more like you're talking to an actual human, and not the instantaneous response that no human could match. And so here we see the responses that we had generated on the previous page. And we could have the full conversation that we had in the sample conversation, but I'll just go ahead and show now the chat log functionality. So we'll log back into our teacher, Professor Chang. We can view the chat logs. We can view Steve's chat log, and we can see from here everything that was said in the chat log, the timestamp as chatbots joined. And then there's additional things that you can set for your chatbots, like the read and write speed. The read speed is how long it takes before they start writing a response, and the write speed is how long before they actually hit submit, essentially. You can also have chatbots only talk to you, or only talked when they're added with the @ symbol. If anybody's familiar with Twitter, they might be familiar with that functionality. And then we have different languages. Currently only English and French are supported, but that can always be increased down the line. Yeah, and so currently not all of the JavaScript functionality is supported, but that's definitely the goal. JavaScript is powerful, and there's a lot of functionality that would make creating a chatbot much easier when implemented. Also, additional ease of use enhancements to make the chatbot creation streamlined would be planned. Currently, if you do have an error in your chatbot, you'll only encounter it when talking to the chatbot, and that's obviously pretty unideal, because you're not being told what exactly is the problem, and you're also not told then and there. So you might go through a bunch of stuff, and then you talk, and you're like, oh, well, I got to go back and fix everything. This includes visual aids alerting to incorrect JavaScript. The individual blocks, you could color a border on them if you're missing chatbot response. Like if you just have a user response, obviously you're not going to actually get anything. There's also things like if you are expecting a variable and you don't have it, then that's also a problem. And then also just general handling of chatbot interaction error cases. So one example would be what I discussed a little while ago, where the wildcard character of the asterisk, you would want that implemented in every case. You don't want to just get the robotic immersion breaking error. Chatbot has no response to that. You want something more human, and maybe, sorry, I don't have a response for that is also a little robotic, but you could have something more human as a catch-all. Another thing would be real-time queries, hitting up search engines. In the example sample conversation, they asked, did you watch the game last night? And being able to use a search engine to grab, the scores, or who won various games would be more realistic. And having recommendations like, what's your favorite movie of 2021? Well, let's say, what's your favorite movie of 2022? Somebody's asking this in 2022, but it was written in 2021. If you have dynamic searching, you don't have to consider that in your actual program. You can just use the search engine to find top rated movies of 2022 and have an actual response. And then there's also all kinds of other third-party databases that can be used. You can get the weather. IMDb has their own thing, going back to the movie thing. And there's a lot that can be implemented that would make it much better. And being able to have a visual representation for those things would be pretty significant in the creation of these chatbots. The last thing would be natural language processing. chatbots nowadays are mostly done with natural language processing. The days of, user says, chatbot response style is not popular in customer-facing large-scale businesses. So being able to create natural language processing with a visual tool, maybe not even possible. It's beyond the scope of this research project, but something that would be a very interesting follow-up, in my opinion. And that's everything I have to present.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. And Scott, there are 2 questions in the chat. Can you take a look?
Sure.
So the first question is, one potential challenge for chatbot is how to deal with pronouns. For example, the first user says, how do you like Harry Potter? And then the chatbot says, it's this wonderful movie. And then user says, do you think it will win the Oscar? And the chatbot will say, I don't know your question. I don't understand your question, because chatbot actually doesn't have anything about it. So could we solve this and make the chatbot intelligent enough to mimic natural communication?
JavaScript does have this functionality where if you ask about something and then the next question has a pronoun, it can figure out what you're talking about. Obviously, that's currently not implemented, but it's definitely part of the JavaScript functionality that would be added down the line. So it's something that this would cover in an ideal situation.
Okay. So the next question from Dr. Stella, George, how important do you think conversational ability is versus a real well thought out training scenarios?
I suppose that would depend on the users using it. I could definitely see if you're using it as a training tool, then you don't necessarily need the conversational ability of natural language processing. So you certainly wouldn't need that. And that's why it's sort of like a down the line kind of thing as a follow-up and not something key to this implementation of it. Conversational ability is more just for, it'd be nice to have. And I definitely think if you could create a visual block-based building website that implemented conversational ability, that would be incredible. But like I said, I'm just an undergraduate student. I'm not actually sure if that would even be possible.
Okay. Any other question? So while we are waiting to see if there is any other question, I think both of the questions, they are very, very important and very good. So for sure, I think our next step is definitely, like Scott says, to making sure that we have the JavaScript functionality implemented in our visual editing environment, so it can solve the problem, the issues that you mentioned. And on the other hand, actually, I think it will be very depending on the users or the creators. So if a creator, they can create a very rich scenario for the chatbot, then the chatbot actually can become a virtual person. And in fact, this virtual person can be some cases that if you talk to your customer, how should you talk to them? And if you are talking with the elder or a virtual patient, how you can talk to them to get the information you really need, because users, they don't know what this chatbot will say or will react to their words. So in that case, they needed to see how to talk to the chatbot properly, so they can get the real information they want in short time. So in order to do that, actually one functionality that we consider, as you can see, you can share the chatbot to others. So basically, we can have a co-creating feature, which means multiple people they can try to create the chatbot on the canvas. So you can create something at the top left-hand side. I can create something in the middle, and the other teacher or the other mentor who can create another part for the chatbot at the right-hand side, something like that. So that is why you can see in our canvas, you can zoom in and zoom out, so you can focusing on a partial of the chatbot. So by the list means you can create a chatbot that can serve a full or complete scenario. On the other hand, as you can also see from the Scott's demo, when Scott's demo, actually he decided to talk to two chatbots at the same time. Actually, if you consider each of the chatbot is a personality or a kind of thinking or reaction mechanism, then actually we can turn on the 5 of them, and then we can talk to them. So in that case, if a chatbot cannot respond to this question, then it will not say anything. So in this case, you can consider one of the chatbot is your right brain, and then another chatbot is your left brain, or one chatbot is about your history, another chatbot is about your family history or medical history, another chatbot is about what kind of prescription or medication right now you are taking. So in that case, you can create a multiple chatbot and then talk to them together at the same time. That can also provide the users a more complete scenario. So Scott, there are another 2 questions.
Yes, as for Kevin's question, yes, JavaScript does support that, and it would be something that would be easy to implement in the visual representation of it.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure if our recording will record the chat message. So Kevin's question is, can we implement the loops like a number of times that the users enter unrecognized input, so the chatbot will get angrier in terms of response? And Scott responded that question earlier. And another question is once again from Stella. Do we have access to play with the tool? I think this is very cool, and have a case situation. I would like to try it out. So Scott?
Yes, we do have a website. I have to talk to Professor Chang on our own time about permissions on that.
Yep, actually. Yeah, I think that is okay. So basically, the website actually is already there. I give you right now, but we haven't done the test, complete the test yet. So I'm not quite sure if the system is working exactly as the demo right now. But Scott, you can double check. But at this moment, here is the URL, so you can go to this website and register an account and to see if everything is working. If you find any function that is not working, please also send me an email so we can fix that, because this is our production server, and definitely we need to making sure that this all the functionality that you see in the demo actually is on the production server. But just in case, if you need, here is the URL, and we will, of course, doing double check and triple check to making sure that all function is working there. All right, so Stephen has a question. So can we implement a condensation scale bar for users' response? So Scott, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, I think so. This is a follow-up to Kevin's question. And so yes, you can. If the user continually responds with the same thing, you can up the well, ethically not sure about angrier, but you can more stern perhaps the response each time. Definitely.
So is that a can we visualize that? For example, having a bar showing that kind of things just perhaps below to the chatbot's answer. Can we have a visualization for that kind of things, or we can only do that in program?
There's no reason we couldn't implement it as a bar. There would have to be some design around it for sure, but yeah, there's no reason we couldn't.
Okay, that's good. All right. So any question? The last question. So, oh, I see a follow-up question. Scott, do you want to take a look? So a follow-up question to Kevin: is it necessary to include the emotion-aware mechanism for the chatbot? Okay, that is necessary.
Maybe not necessarily like emotion aware, but if the user does continue to repeat the same response over and over again, you might want some kind of helpful path to take to sort of get the conversation back on track.
Yeah. I think that is a good answer, and also I think it depends on the situation. For example, if you are trying to use chatbot to help people practicing their language speaking or talking, then you probably don't need to have this emotion mechanism turn on. On the other hand, for example, as what we want to do is trying to use this chatbot to train nurse or caregivers. In that case, they might need to be aware what the kind of actions they may make people unhappy. So in that case, or in the customer service training situation, users, they may want to turn on this kind of emotion aware or emotion capability feature. So I think that is a good question, and I think when we implement this this function, we should have should allow the users to turn on or turn off for their chatbot. So individual chatbot, they could have this emotion aware feature turn on or turn off. So in that case, our system can serve more people's need. All right. So once again, thank you so much, Scott, for your presentation. And again, Scott also started only for three months and a half. So you can see he used the new technology called SVG. So we can provide you this kind of a block-based visual editing environment to create a chatbot, and he also tried to connect the visual editing environment to the JavaScript behind the scene to making sure that everything you create for the chatbot actually can really reflect to the chatbot's reaction and the response. So, and you can see there is cross control and class control and the shareability, so you can share your chatbot to others, so others they can also taking a look and talk to your chatbot, and the teachers they can see how their students or how their trainees did when they talk to the chatbot. So when they click on the history, actually they can say, okay, my God, you are not doing good job. You shouldn't say this, shouldn't say that. So actually that will be very, very handy for the users. For example, if you don't, let's say, if we want to train the people's awareness about sexual misconduct or discrimination conversation. So in that case, we can take a look at your chat history and tell you, okay, you shouldn't say something like this. That is why the chatbot respond at the end. It says they want to sue you. So this is a kind of application case that you can use our visual editing environment and the chatbot training with chatbot functionality to train people to making sure that they are aware of the things they should or shouldn't talk.